7 armed enforcers. 1 unarmed human. 4 minutes later, my entire career was over, and she was filing paperwork. I know how this sounds. 7 trained enforcers, full tactical gear, non-lethal compliance equipment, standing in our own depot, and we got absolutely demolished by 1 human female who walked in wearing cargo pants and an attitude. You think I want to admit that? You think I enjoy sitting in this chair under these lights, explaining to Internal Affairs how my entire career just evaporated in approximately 4 minutes and 37 seconds? Because that is how long it took. 4 minutes. 37 seconds. I checked the security footage timestamp before you confiscated it. My name is Kelt Voran, badge number 77324, 12 years of service with the Rex Enforcement Coalition, 2 commendations, 0 complaints until last night. And no, before you ask again, I was not intoxicated. No, I was not compromised. No, I did not accept any bribes or inducements to throw the encounter. I just survived, which is more than I can say for my career, my reputation, or my partner's medical bills. The investigator sitting across from me, Senior Auditor Kren, has not blinked in the last 30 seconds. His face plates are doing that thing where they darken around the edges, which means he is either incredibly angry or incredibly disappointed. Possibly both. He keeps tapping his data slate with 1 claw, tap, 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 like he is counting the number of regulations I violated, the number of protocols I ignored, the number of ways this entire situation became a Category 5 disaster. I am tapping my secondary thumbs against my knees. Cannot help it. Nervous habit. My wife says I do it when I am stressed. Well, congratulations to her for being right, because I am currently experiencing enough stress to power a small fusion reactor. Kren finally speaks. His voice has that quality, you know, the one where you can tell someone has already decided you are guilty and they are just going through the motions to make it official. Enforcer Voran, he says, way too calm, way too controlled. Perhaps you should start from the beginning. Walk me through exactly how 7 trained officers failed to apprehend 1 unarmed human civilian. Unarmed. Right. That is technically accurate. She did not have a weapon. She did not need one. I take a breath. My gills flutter. Here goes nothing. It was a standard rotation at Depot 7-9. You know the place, right? Cargo processing hub on the commercial district's east end. Handles about 4,000 shipments per cycle. Mostly legitimate trade goods, occasionally something that requires a closer inspection. Nothing glamorous. We call it the graveyard shift because absolutely nothing interesting ever happens between the hours of 2200 and 0600. Until last night, obviously. 7 of us on duty. Commander Zef Marin, 20-year veteran, built like a cargo hauler, 3 rows of honor scars across his crest. He ran the shift like a military operation, which annoyed everyone but kept the paperwork pristine. Then there was Dravik Sorn, my partner. Loud mouth, bigger ego, always going on about how his crest was genetically superior. Vexra and Polt, the twins, quick reflexes, decent in a scrap. The Grath siblings, Henrik and Torves, transferred in from orbital security, supposedly elite-level training. And me, boring old Kelth, just trying to make it to pension without incident. We were sitting around the central monitoring station, half watching cargo scanners, half arguing about the gravity ball finals, when she walked in. Rina Cole, that is her name. I know because I read it off her identification later after everything went sideways. Human female. Maybe 1.7 meters tall, which is short by our standards. Brown skin, dark hair pulled back tight, wearing those ridiculous human cargo pants with about 15 pockets and a jacket that had seen better days. She walked with this loose, easy stride, like someone taking an evening stroll through a park, not someone entering enforcement depot at midnight with questionable documentation. Dravik noticed her first. Of course he did. He nudged me, flashing that stupid grin he always had before doing something monumentally dumb. Single human, he said, chuckling. Probably lost. This should take about 45 seconds. I should mention something here. Humans have a reputation. They are stubborn, sure, a bit reckless, but physically, they are average at best. Lighter bone density than us, shorter reach, no natural armor plating, no venom sacs, no secondary combat appendages. Standard galactic assessment puts them at Tier 3 physical threat level. which means a trained Rex enforcer should be able to handle 3, maybe 4 humans in close quarters without significant difficulty. 7 of us. 1 of her. The math seemed pretty straightforward. Commander Zeph stood up, adjusting his duty belt, activating his compliance baton with that characteristic whine-click sound. Vexra and Pult flanked him automatically. The Grath siblings moved to cover the exits. Ravik and I approached from the monitoring station side. Standard containment formation. By the book, professional. Rena stopped about 5 meters from the central desk, hands visible empty, hanging loose at her sides. She looked around, counting us. I think. Her expression did not change. No fear, no surprise, no nervousness. Just this calm, almost bored assessment, like she was calculating something in her head. That should have been my first clue. Dravik stepped forward, his crest flaring in that aggressive display he thought made him look intimidating. Human, you are in a restricted enforcement area. State your business or you will be removed. She smiled. Not a friendly smile. The kind of smile that says someone knows something you do not. I am here to file a cargo manifest amendment, she said. Her voice was steady, almost pleasant. There seems to be a discrepancy in my documentation. 7 armed enforcers. 1 unarmed human with a paperwork problem. What could possibly go wrong? Commander Zeph glanced at his data slate scrolling through the manifest queue. Cargo manifest amendment. At midnight. Without an appointment. He looked up at her, his face plates shifting into that expression we use when we are dealing with someone we think is wasting our time. You could have filed this electronically, human. Why are you here in person? Electronic filing takes 3 business days, Rena said, still wearing that smile. I leave the station in 6 hours, so here I am. In person. Technically, she was right. The bureaucracy on this station moves slower than a Galarian slug in hibernation, but showing up at an enforcement depot after hours, that was unusual, pushy even. Dravik moved closer, invading her personal space in that way he always did when he wanted to establish dominance. Let me see your identification and cargo documentation. She reached slowly into one of those ridiculous pockets, pulled out a data chip and held it up between 2 fingers. Dravik snatched it from her hand, jamming it into his scanner with more force than necessary. His faceplates darkened as he read. Your manifest lists medical supplies, but the weight distribution does not match. You are 40 kilograms over, declared Mass. He looked up, his crest fully extended now, trying to loom over her. That is a Class 2 violation, could be smuggling, could be contraband. Could be that your station's cargo scales have not been calibrated in 8 months. Rena replied, her voice still pleasant, still calm. Which is itself a Class 3 regulatory violation, by the way. I checked. Oh, she did not just say that. Vexra snorted. Pult grinned. Even I had to suppress a clicking sound that might have been amusement. She was right, of course. The scales were garbage. Everyone knew it, but you do not point that out to an enforcer who is already on a power trip. Dravik's crest flushed darker. That purple-red color that means someone is about 3 seconds from doing something stupid.
You think you are clever, human? You think you can walk in here, insult our equipment, and walk out with a amended manifest?
I think I can file legitimate paperwork without being harassed, she said. The pleasant tone was gone now. Her voice dropped, got quieter, which somehow made it more threatening. And I think you should step back. Or what? Dravik leaned in closer. His hand moved to his compliance baton. You going to file a complaint? You going to tell your embassy that big mean Dravik hurt your feelings? I was watching her stance. That was when I noticed. Her feet had shifted, just slightly. Weight balanced, knees loose, hands still at her sides, but her fingers had curled inward, just a fraction. Her shoulders had dropped half an inch. I have seen combat stances before. This was one. Dravik, I said, my voice carrying a warning I hoped he would hear. Let us just process her paperwork and send her on her way. No need to escalate. He ignored me. Of course he did. You humans come onto our station, use our facilities, benefit from our security, and then you disrespect us? Dravik was on a roll now, his voice getting louder. Maybe you need to learn some manners. Rena looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked at me, then at Commander Zeph, then back at Dravik. I am going to say this once, she said, her voice flat, factual, like she was reading a maintenance manual. Walk away. Process my paperwork. Let me leave. Everyone goes home intact. Dravik laughed. A big, booming laugh that echoed through the depot. Vexra joined in. Polth chuckled. Even the Grath siblings were smirking. Did you hear that? Dravik called out to everyone. She is threatening us. One little human is threatening 7 enforcers. He reached for her arm. I think you need to come with us for additional questioning, human. Resisting enforcement, threatening officers, improper documentation. We can make this a very long night for you. His hand was maybe 10 centimeters from her shoulder when she moved. And that auditor Kren is when everything went completely and utterly wrong. You know what the worst part is? We had about half a second where we could have stopped this. Half a second where Dravik's hand was extending toward her shoulder, where Commander Zeph was opening his mouth to probably tell Dravik to back off, where I was reaching for my comm to call for a supervisor. Half a second where Rena looked directly at Dravik and said, very clearly, very calmly, last chance, and Dravik, because he was Dravik, said, go ahead, human, try something. So she did. I have replayed this moment in my head approximately 6,000 times since last night. I have watched the security footage. I have run it in slow motion. I have analyzed every frame, and I still cannot fully explain how she moved that fast. Her left hand came up, not to block his reaching arm, but to meet it. She caught his wrist, twisted inward, stepped forward into his space. Her right elbow drove up into his throat with enough force that I heard the cartilage crunch from 3 meters away. Dravik's eyes went wide, his crest flattened instantly, and he made this horrible choking sound that I will probably hear in my nightmares for the rest of my life. But she was not done. While he was still processing the fact that his windpipe had just been compressed, she pivoted, used his own arm as a lever, and threw him. Just threw him. All 120 kilograms of Dravik Sorn, decorated enforcer, owner of a supposedly superior crest, went sailing through the air and crashed into a cargo container with a sound like a small vehicle accident. He did not get up. The entire exchange took maybe 2 seconds. 2 seconds. There was this moment, this beautiful, terrible moment of absolute silence where all 6 of us remaining enforcers just stood there, staring at Dravik's crumpled form, then at Rena, then at each other, trying to process what our eyes had just witnessed. Commander Zeph broke the silence first. Subdue her. Now, oh yes, our tactical response. Let me tell you about our brilliant tactical response. Vexra and Polth, being twins and thinking they had some kind of psychic coordination, rushed her simultaneously from opposite sides. Classic pincer movement. Works great on drunks and low-level smugglers, works less great on humans who apparently train for this exact scenario. Rena dropped low, I mean completely low, almost to the floor. Vexra's grab went over her head, Polth's went over her back, and while they were both off balance, committed to attacks that hit nothing but air, she swept Polth's legs out from under him with a kick that had her entire body weight behind it. Polth went down hard, his head bouncing off the depot floor with a crack that made my teeth hurt. Vexra, realizing she had overextended, tried to recover, tried to turn and face the threat. Rena helped her turn. Helped her a lot, actually. Grabbed Vexra's uniform, used her momentum, and accelerated her face first into the same cargo container that Dravik was currently using as a resting place. 2 more down. Maybe 4 seconds total. Grath siblings, Commander Zeph shouted, his voice cracking slightly, which never happens, contain her non-lethal force authorized. The Grath siblings, Henrik and Torvis, were supposed to be elite. Orbital security training. Advanced combat certification. They had been in actual hostile boarding actions. They moved with professional precision, drawing shock batons, activating them, flanking her with proper spacing and communication. Henrik went high, Torvis went low. Textbook dual-angle assault, Rena counted. Out loud. In human language. 1. She blocked Henrik's baton strike with her forearm. Just blocked it. The shock baton, designed to incapacitate most species with 1 hit, made contact with her jacket sleeve and did absolutely nothing. Some kind of insulated material, I guess. Henrik's faceplates showed confusion, then alarm. 2. She grabbed Torvis's baton as it came in low, held it, absorbed the shock somehow. I do not understand the physics, and then yanked it out of his hands while simultaneously kicking him in the knee joint. His leg bent sideways, not in a direction legs are supposed to bend. He screamed. 3. She turned Torvis's baton around, jammed it into Henrik's midsection, and activated it. Henrik went rigid, every muscle locking up, and then he collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. 3 more enforcers. Maybe 6 seconds, which left Commander Zeph and me. I looked at the commander. He looked at me. We both looked at Rena, who was standing in the middle of our depot surrounded by 6 unconscious or moaning enforcers, not even breathing hard. She tilted her head slightly. "So," she said, "about that cargo manifest amendment. Wait, hold on, I am getting ahead of myself. Let me back up, because I skipped something important in my panic to explain how we all became statistics. The depot's environmental systems. That matters. That matters a lot. Depot 79 is a low-gravity cargo processing facility. 0.6 standard gravity. To be specific, because it makes moving heavy containers easier and reduces wear on the loading equipment. Most of the freight is suspended in these cargo nets, hanging from overhead rails, and there are containers stacked 3 high along every wall. In 0.6 gravity, things fall slower, but they still fall, and when you introduce kinetic energy into that equation, when someone with apparently superhuman reflexes starts using the environment as a weapon, well, that is when things get really interesting. And by interesting, I mean catastrophic. See, when Rena threw Dravik into that first container, she did not just hurt him, she destabilized an entire stack. The container shifted, bumped the one next to it, and suddenly we had 3 tons of slowly tipping cargo, creating a cascading effect along the entire west wall. Vexra, who was just starting to regain consciousness from her intimate meeting with said container, chose that exact moment to sit up, right into the path of a swinging cargo net full of industrial polymers. The net caught her across the chest and just carried her, swept her right off her feet, sent her sailing in that graceful slow-motion arc that low gravity provides, and deposited her into a recycling chute approximately 8 meters away. We heard her land. It sounded expensive. Hulth, showing either tremendous bravery or tremendous stupidity, got to his feet and drew his sidearm. Standard issue neural disruptor. Non-lethal setting. Effective range about 15 meters. "Stay where you are," he shouted at Rena, his voice shaking just slightly. His hand was steady though, I will give him that. "I will fire." Rena looked at him. Then she looked up at the cargo net that was still swinging from its collision with Vexra. Then she looked back at Pulth. "You sure about that?" she asked. He fired. Here is the thing about neural disruptors in low-gravity environments. The energy discharge creates a momentary electromagnetic pulse. Not big, not dangerous. Unless you happen to be standing near, oh I do not know, a cargo net suspended by electromagnetic clamps. The net released. 300 kilograms of containers dropped directly between Pulth and Rena. Pulth's shot hit one of the containers, ricocheted and struck Henrik Grath, who was just starting to recover from his earlier electrocution. Henrik went down again, twitching. Pulth stared at his weapon like it had personally betrayed him. Rena smiled. That same smile from earlier. "Oops," she said. My secondary thumbs were tapping against my thighs so hard I thought I might bruise. This was not happening. This could not be happening. I have 3 hatchlings at home. 3. The youngest just molted for the first time last week. I have retirement savings. I have a mortgage. I have a wife who is going to kill me if I die before paying off the kitchen renovation. I am not a coward. I want to be very clear about that. Auditor Kren. 12 years of service. 2 commendations. But those commendations were for paperwork accuracy and de-escalation techniques, not for engaging in hand-to-hand combat with humans who apparently eat Rex enforcers for breakfast. Commander Zeph was thinking tactically. I could see it in his faceplates. He was running scenarios, calculating odds, trying to figure out how to salvage this absolute disaster of a situation. "Kelth," he said quietly, not taking his eyes off Rena. "Flank left. I will take center. We go simultaneously on my mark." On his mark? Sure. Great plan. Just like the great plan that resulted in 6 of our colleagues currently contributing to the depot's new aesthetic of unconscious bodies and property damage. But he was the commander, and I was the subordinate, and that is how chain of command works, even when chain of command is clearly a terrible idea. I started moving left, slowly, carefully, trying not to make any sudden movements that might provoke her into turning me into a Celt-shaped dent in the wall. Torvis Grath, the one whose knee was bent in a direction knees should not bend, was making these whimpering sounds from where he had crawled behind a container. His brother Henrik was still twitching from the friendly fire neural disruptor hit. Drevik had not moved in at least 2 minutes, which was concerning. Vexra was somewhere in the recycling system. Palt was standing perfectly still, holding his weapon like it might explode if he breathed wrong. 6 enforcers down or incapacitated. 2 of us left. 1 human, still not breathing hard, still calm, watching us move into position with that same calculating expression. Commander Zeph raised his shock baton. I raised mine. The whine of both weapons charging filled the depot, mixing with the creaking of destabilized cargo containers and Torvis's whimpering and the general ambiance of our careers ending in real time. On 3, Zeph said. 1. I thought about my hatchlings. 2. I thought about my wife. 3. I thought about how much I did not want to do this. We charged. It went about as well as you would expect. Actually, wait, I need to correct something. I already told you about the Grath siblings getting taken down. My brain is scrambled. Let me get this timeline straight, because internal affairs is going to crucify me if I cannot keep the sequence of absolute humiliation organized properly. Right. So, Commander Zeph and I charged. 2 trained enforcers, shock batons active, coming at her from different angles. Zeph went in first, naturally, because he is the commander and apparently believed that rank would somehow protect him from physics. He swung his baton in a wide arc, aiming for her shoulder. Standard disabling strike. Should have connected. Would have connected, if Rena had been where his strike was aimed. But she dropped and rolled in that slow, low-gravity way that makes everything look choreographed. And Zeph's baton hit nothing but air. His momentum carried him forward. In 0.6 gravity, momentum is a harsh teacher. I came in from the left, trying to capitalize on her evasion, trying to catch her mid-roll. My baton was aimed perfectly. Textbook strike. My form was flawless. My baton also shorted out. Just died. The charge indicator flickered, made a sad electrical wheezing sound and went dark. Because of course it did. Because this entire night was apparently scripted by someone with a cruel sense of humor and a desire to see my career destroyed. I stood there, holding a dead stick, watching Rena complete her roll and come up in a crouch. And then she spoke. In perfect Rex. Not accented. Not halting. Fluent. Grammatically correct Rex. You know, she said, her vocal cords handling our clicking consonants better than some native speakers. When you plan a coordinated attack, you should probably make sure the person you are attacking does not speak your language. My gills stopped working. Just completely stopped. I might have made a sound. It might have been a whimper. Commander Zeph froze mid-recovery. You speak Rex? Fluently, she replied, standing up, dusting off her ridiculous cargo pants. And for about 6 years. So when you told Kelth to flank left while you took center, and when you discussed going on 3, I heard all of that. Very tactical though. Gold star for effort. This is the part where I should explain something about Rex culture. We are a proud species. We have honor codes, warrior traditions, centuries of military history. We do not broadcast our tactical plans in front of enemies because that would be monumentally stupid. But we also have this deeply ingrained assumption that other species do not speak Rex. It is a complex language, lots of clicking and subharmonic tones, and most translators handle it poorly. So we got comfortable. We got sloppy. We discussed tactics right in front of someone who understood every single word. Cultural arrogance meets linguistic reality. The results were not pretty. Zeph tried to recover, tried to maintain some shred of command authority. That changes nothing. You assaulted enforcement officers. You are under arrest. For filing paperwork? Rena asked, her tone incredibly reasonable for someone standing in a depot full of unconscious enforcers. Because that is what I came here to do. File paperwork? You all decided to make it complicated. Palt, still standing there with his traitorous neural disruptor, decided this was his moment to contribute. He aimed at Rena again, his hand shaking slightly. Drop the weapon, Rena said in Rex, not even looking at him. I am not holding a weapon, Palt replied automatically, then realized what he actually was holding, looked down at his neural disruptor, looked back up at her, and his faceplates went completely pale. She had just given him an order, in his own language, using the grammatical form that a superior officer uses, and he had responded instinctively, the way 12 years of conditioning had trained him to respond. His weapon clattered to the floor. Commander Zeph closed his eyes. His crest sagged. In that moment I think he knew we had lost before we even started. So there we were, Commander Zeph, me and one human who had just linguistically disarmed Polth without even touching him. 6 enforcers down. 1 enforcer disarmed and questioning his life choices. 2 of us left standing. Zeph turned to me. His faceplates had gone dark. That deep purple that means someone is running on pure stubborn pride instead of rational thought. His shock baton was still active, still humming. Kelt, he said, his voice hard, official, using that tone that makes it clear this is an order and not a suggestion. Engage the target. Close quarters. Simultaneous strike. Now. I looked at him. Then I looked at Rena. Then I looked at the 6 bodies scattered around the depot like someone had redecorated using unconscious enforcers as furniture. My dead shock baton hung useless in my hand. My secondary thumbs were tapping so fast they were basically vibrating. I thought about my 3 hatchlings. I thought about how the youngest one, Para, had just learned to say my name last week. How she clicks the consonants wrong, and it is the most adorable thing I have ever heard. I thought about my wife, Senna, who told me this morning to be safe, to come home intact, to not do anything stupid. I thought about my pension, my mortgage, my kitchen renovation that still needs 3 more payments. I thought about honor, duty, chain of command, all the things they teach you in Enforcement Academy, and then I looked at Rena's eyes. She was watching me. Not Seth. Me. Waiting to see what I would do. And in her eyes I did not see cruelty or anger or violence. I saw calculation. I saw someone who had already run every scenario, already knew exactly how this would end, and was giving me a choice. Attack and join my colleagues in unconsciousness, or walk away. Enforcer Voron, Zeph barked. That is a direct order. I dropped my baton. It clattered on the floor, the sound echoing through the depot. No, I said. Zeph's crest flared. What did you just say? I said no, Commander. My voice was shaking but steady. I have 3 hatchlings at home. I am not getting my skull cracked open because we could not process a cargo manifest amendment without turning it into a tactical situation. You are refusing a direct order. Yes, sir, I am. I took a step back, hands visible, non-threatening. I am refusing an order that will result in me getting hospitalized for no good reason. Court-martial me if you want. But I am going home tonight with all my bones pointing in their original directions. Zeph stared at me like I had just personally insulted his entire genetic line. Then he turned back to Rena. Fine, he said. I will handle this myself. That was his last mistake. Commander Zeph Maran. 20 years of service, 3 rows of honor scars, decorated veteran, survivor of the Kelgar Station riots, built like a cargo hauler, outweighed Rena by at least 50 kilograms. He circled her slowly, shock baton held in a proper guard position, his stance textbook perfect. All those years of training, all that experience, all that muscle mass. He truly believed he was going to win. Rena just stood there, hands loose at her sides, watching him circle. Waiting. You got lucky with the others, Zeph said, his voice cold, controlled. But I have been doing this since before you were born, human. I have put down armed insurgents, hostile boarding parties, combat-trained mercenaries. You are just a cargo hauler with an attitude problem. Sure, Rena said. Keep telling yourself that. Zeph lunged. Fast. For someone his size. The shock baton came in low, angled up toward her ribs. A killing strike if it connected. Except we were supposed to be using non-lethal force. But I think Zeph had moved past caring about regulations somewhere around the time his entire squad got demolished. Rena sidestepped. Minimal movement. Just enough. The baton missed by centimeters. Zeph recovered, spun, brought the baton around in a backhand strike. She ducked under it. He jabbed forward. She deflected with her forearm. He swung high. She went low. For maybe 10 seconds, it almost looked like a fair fight, like Zeph's experience might actually matter. Then Rena stopped playing. She caught his next strike. Just caught the baton. Mid-swing. Her hand closed around it, and she held it. Zeph tried to pull it back. It did not move. He pulled harder. She pulled back, yanking him off balance, and drove her knee into his midsection with enough force that I heard the air explode out of his lungs. While he was bent over, gasping, she twisted the baton out of his hand, tossed it away, grabbed his head with both hands, and dropped him face first into the floor. In 0.6 gravity, he fell slowly, almost gracefully. He hit the ground and did not get back up. The depot went silent. Completely silent. No alarms, no shouting, no movement. Just the quiet hum of ventilation systems and the occasional groan from one of the 6, no, 7 unconscious enforcers scattered across the floor. Rena straightened up, rolled her shoulders and looked at me. "So," she said, "about that cargo manifest." I processed her paperwork. Right there, immediately. With shaking hands and dysfunctional gills and the overwhelming desire to never ever make eye contact with another human again. Her cargo manifest was legitimate. The weight discrepancy was exactly what she said it was, a calibration error on our end. Medical supplies properly documented, properly licensed. I amended the manifest, approved it, stamped it, and handed her the data chip back in approximately 90 seconds. She thanked me. Politely. Like we were conducting a normal transaction. Like 7 enforcers were not currently unconscious or injured around us. Then she left. Just walked out. Disappeared into the station's commercial corridors. I stood there for maybe 5 minutes, listening to Torves whimper and Dravik snore and Commander Zeph groan, before I finally called for medical assistance and station security. That is when things got interesting in a completely different way. Station Security Chief Morin arrived with the medical teams. She took one look at the depot, at the scattered bodies, at me standing there with my career in ruins, and she started laughing. Actually laughing. "You idiots," she said, pulling up something on her data slate. "You complete and total idiots." She showed me the screen. Security footage. Multiple angles. High definition. And timestamp. Someone had been watching. Recording. The entire encounter. Rena Cole, Morin said, still grinning, is a certified close combat instructor for the human colonial marines. She teaches hand-to-hand combat to special operations units. She has been doing it for 15 years. My secondary thumbs stopped tapping. My brain stopped working. She runs a side business, Morin continued. Testing security protocols for stations and facilities. Exposing weaknesses. She gets hired to walk in, provoke a response, and see how enforcement handles difficult situations. She gestured at the unconscious enforcers. "Congratulations, you all just became a training video on what not to do." I sat down. Right there on the floor. Just sat. "Oh," Morin added, "and there was a betting pool. I had 50 credits on her taking down all 7 of you in under 5 minutes, so thanks for that." Auditor Krenz sets down his data slate. He looks at me for a long moment, his faceplate's completely unreadable. "So let me make sure I understand this correctly," he says slowly. "You and 6 other enforcers assaulted a licensed security consultant who was legally filing paperwork, escalated a routine administrative interaction into a physical confrontation, caused approximately 40,000 credits in property damage, and provided her with premium footage for her professional portfolio. Is that accurate?" "Yes, sir," I say quietly. "That is accurate, and you personally chose not to engage after recognizing the situation was unwinnable." "Yes, sir." He taps his data slate one more time. Tap, tap. "Enforcer Voron, you are hereby suspended pending full investigation. However, off the record, you made the only intelligent decision anyone made that entire night." He stands up, gathering his materials. "Oh, and Voron, the training video went live this morning. It has been viewed approximately 2 million times across the galactic network. The title is, and I quote, 7 Reasons Why Ego is Not a Tactical Advantage." He walks to the door, pauses, looks back. "Your cargo manifest amendment?" She never actually needed one. The paperwork was perfect. She just wanted to see if you would escalate. The door closes behind him. I sit there in the interrogation room, thinking about my 3 hatchlings, my mortgage, my ruined career, and the fact that I am probably the only enforcer in galactic history who survived an encounter with a human combat instructor by simply refusing to be stupid. My secondary thumbs start tapping again. Somewhere out there, Rena Cole is probably teaching another class, showing that video explaining to a room full of Marines exactly how overconfident enforcement officers make every tactical mistake possible in under 5 minutes. And somewhere in that footage, there is me, dropping my baton, walking away, choosing my family over my ego. I got suspended. I got humiliated. I became a galactic meme, but I get to go home tonight. I call that a win.